Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wisdom in the Tangents podcast. I am your host, John Mansfield, and today I've got a special episode for you. It's a special week. We've got holidays this week. We've got Christmas. We've got Hanukkah. I believe on the same day. I think they're both on the 25th this year, which is kind of fun. That's different. Normally doesn't line up like that. And with the holidays, I am out of office. I'm not here. You can't see me. I'm John Cena. I am on vacation. I'm taking some time off as, this podcast is all about creating the lifestyle that you want and being able to step away from your business and it not just like crumble and fall and stop making money. So that's what I'm doing for the next couple weeks. Right now, if you're listening to this the day that it comes out, we're trying something new for Christmas this year. My family and I were meeting up with the grandparents, with my brother and his family, and we are all going to an indoor heated water park to celebrate Christmas. And we're staying there for a few days, and guess I'm probably on an inner tube just floating around the lazy river right now. So that's what we're doing. And because of that, I figured what a better time to share a pre-recorded conversation with you. And this is a great one. I really loved this conversation with my friend Rachel Traxler. I was a guest on her show, the Gold Biz Podcast, a while ago. I think this was up like episode 99. And she and I talked about how to market whenever you are no longer your target client. Because a lot of us, we start off kind of selling to ourselves, like a lot of people who are in the same socioeconomic pool that we are. And as your business grows, that might change a little bit. And you're trying to reach out to other people who maybe don't look like you, spend money like you. It's all different. So it's a really fun conversation. Rachel's a great host. If you have not checked out her podcast yet, definitely do that after this episode. I will link it in the show notes. Again, that's the Gold Biz Podcast. But yeah, here's my conversation with Rachel Traxler on her show.
You're listening to the Gold Biz Podcast, episode number 99. Hello, sunshines, and welcome back to the Gold Biz Podcast with me, your host, Rachel Traxler. Today, I have with me guest John Mansfield, who is an absolute joy to talk to, especially about a really fun topic on how to market when you are no longer your ideal client. What does that look like? Can you still market to them? How does your marketing plan and strategy look like? What should you do differently? All of that, he covers how exactly to do that and his take on it, which I think is so interesting. So I know you're going to love this episode. So without further ado, let's welcome on John. John, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. It's such an honor to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. I am so pumped. I've been getting that fast heartbeat all morning. Just oh, I am pumped. I am ready for this. I have been excited about this. So thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, you're so welcome. So I'm glad you're excited because I'm just equally as excited. And I think too, because this topic today, the topic we're talking about is just how to market yourself when you are no longer your ideal client or if things are shifting and stuff, which I think is going to be a really cool topic because we haven't really talked about. And it's also something I just don't really hear people talking about because it does happen as our lives change and we grow, our business grows and what that looks like and how to navigate it. So I'm really excited just to hear what you say. So just kind of diving right in with things in your experience, just with everything you have, do you think that you have to be your own ideal client to be able to market to them?
Oh, definitely not. No. I think we kind of start off as our target client a lot of the time. We're kind of, you start your business, marketing is hard. You don't really know what to say. You don't really have a cohesive idea of your ideal client. And you just kind of put out words that would attract you. And you're like, okay, if I saw this ad, I would click on that. If I saw this pop up on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, then I would want to follow them. And you just kind of put stuff out there that you would be attracted to. So you are kind of marketing to yourself. And at the beginning, that might work because your target client might be exactly in your same shoes where it actually works out. But like, yeah, as you were saying, like as your business grows, your target client also grows and changes and evolves into something new. And if you're continuing to market to yourself, then you're missing out on your target client.
That's such a good point. And so do you feel like people should be kind of doing like an evaluation, like a yearly evaluation of what their ideal client is and what that looks like? Because I feel like, especially now, I think in 2023, just where we're at, it's just more of a thing where we can be multi-passionate. We don't have to niche down as much. We can do all these things. So I feel like it's easier for us to like go in different directions. How often do you feel like people should kind of reevaluate that?
Yeah, I mean, I think annually is great. This time, we're recording this in January. It's a new year. You're figuring out new things. It's the new beginnings. You're looking at your business. You're looking at this past year, what worked, what didn't. And at least you should be doing that. Please do that every year.
Yes.
But yeah, like I would say every year do that. I always like to do that in April, just because that's like the birthday of my business. I started in April. So every April I just come back around and I'm like, okay, what is this next season going to look like? What did this last one look like? And that's a really great time to assess where you are and also who your target client is, because that does change. And then also anytime that you like go to a workshop or hire a coach like yourself, or, listen to an amazing podcast and you're just like taking all the notes and actually implement it and your business has changed drastically, that is also a great time to just really quickly assess, is my target client still the same now that my business has changed?
Yeah, that's such a good point too. Because sometimes like maybe the reason why you're not getting inquiries or your marketing's not working is because you think you're doing it right and you think you're speaking to these right people, but maybe you're not. And maybe you don't realize it until you do, like just exactly what you said, John, like digging deeper and just figuring that out or walking through that with someone, realizing like, okay, this is why things aren't clicking. This isn't exactly what I'm doing. So no wonder my marketing's not really working.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened to me, where I really hadn't thought about who I was speaking to. I was just speaking. And I was just like, I'm just going to throw my photos out there. I'm just going to talk about what I do. And hopefully whoever is attracted to this will come in. And then whoever's not attracted to this, they'll repel and go away. But it's just like, it's a very shotgun approach of just like, I'm just going to try and hit anything and not kind of, not really niche down, but like concise your, that's probably not the right word for this, but like taking all of your marketing efforts and really honing them in on one thing instead of just, I'm just going to throw whatever out there and whoever sees it can come in. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point, because I feel like that's what a lot of people do, especially when they're just starting. They're like, I'm just going to throw spaghetti at the wall here. I'm going to just throw out everything I have. And if they're my ideal client, they'll come to me. You know what I mean? And
exactly.
People have that mentality when it's like, they don't realize that like our potential clients and our clients, like they have control over who they want to book and what they want to do first before they even come to you. So it's like, you can't just walk around with that mentality either of just like, oh, they'll come to me, because I'm a big believer, and you just have to go out and make opportunities happen for yourself. And I believe that with everything, and marketing included. So when you're looking and like reevaluating things, how can your marketing change and switch depending on figuring out your ideal client? So say you didn't know your ideal client. Now all of a sudden you do. How does that marketing look different?
Well, that marketing, I mean, you figuring out your ideal client, you have a lot of different factors that go into that. I know some people teach like really figuring out, like giving them a name and an age range and like gender and all of these things and like a backstory, which I think is cool. If you want to go into that, definitely go into that. That is a little bit too deep for me. I feel like it's speaking a little bit too pointed to one person. So like once you know who your target client is, like the style of photography that they like, the maybe an age range, if you're a wedding photographer, you're probably not talking to 18-year-olds, and you're probably also not talking to 70-year-olds. You're somewhere in the middle there, and really figuring out what their desires are, what their pain points are, and then being able to speak to those through your copy, through your marketing, through Instagram, your website, all that kind of stuff. That is really how that changes, where you're speaking to your target client.
Yeah. And I'm just like sitting over here like, yes, I totally agree. Cause I feel like people do this like ideal like avatar client and they get so specific where it just kind of puts them in this box. And like, I'm totally guilty of this because I used to do this as well. Like I used to think I needed to get so specific. And now I'm like, whether they're this or this, that doesn't make them my ideal client or not. Like, I think for me, it's like aligned on like values and like what they value in life and in their photography and like the approach that I have and if it's aligned with them and stuff like that. So for example, I think some people really like, or they put in a box of liking couples who are really extroverted and like kind of just are, you know, do whatever in front of the camera and really comfortable in front of the camera. And I'm like, I've had super aligned and ideal clients who are both extroverted and introverted. And like, to me, that doesn't qualify them an ideal client or not. It's like their values and what they want out of a photographer. And so there's different things. I'm really glad you mentioned that too, because I think people do put their ideal clients in such a small box. And then it's really frustrating for them when they can't nail that down. Right. And so I think that's a good point to make.
Yeah. Cause like even the copy that I had on my website was very pointed to brides. And I was always just like, hey girl, hey bride, whatever. And like in my blog posts and all of that. And I realized that I was really not speaking to any of the guys out there that might be doing some of the wedding planning as well. And because I get a lot of, especially with proposals, the guys are reaching out to me and being able to speak to just not so pointed of just like, hey, this is this one person that I'm speaking to, but more of like a group of people. So like with your photography, your couples are just like joyfully in love. Like you see that through the photos and they love the outdoors and like warm, cozy images. And that's a very different client than, say, Chewy Photo. I don't know if you know Chewy, but he's, like very dark, edgy, moody. You know, his couples are often, flipping off the camera and naked in a lot of the photos. And like he gives them tattoos at the end of every session. That is a very different target client than your target client. So as like y'all can't speak to the same, you can speak to the same person, but you're going to attract a different person than he's going to attract. So having that idea of who your target client is, what style they like, all those different things is really going to help you put into words how you speak to them online.
Totally. And I think every photographer, like we're all photographing weddings, right? But we all do it so differently. And our approaches are different. Our posing approach is different. Our editing style is different. Like you said, like that's what gives him people that say like, I want to hire him because I get this. I know I get this from his experience. And that's what draws it too. But what, in your opinion, is like a specific strategy? Because I know you talked about like copy and stuff on your website. Is there a specific strategy that you find that when you can figure out your ideal client, even if it's not necessarily you're not your own ideal client, where can we make those minor adjustments so that we can attract them?
Yes. Yeah. The minor adjustments are really in the way that you speak. A lot of times we do tend to attract people that are similar to us. If you are fun-loving and joyful and just into like comedy shows and stuff like that, speaking in your own voice on your website will attract people that are similar in that way. And most of the time, if you are more fun-loving, you're not going to be marketing toward people who are dark and edgy and not wanting to smile in their photos. Like you're going to be speaking to the people who want that. They want the fun. They want to see their love in these photos, and really figuring out how to speak to them in that voice that is fun-loving, in that voice that is, talking about how they will see their love portrayed in these photos, and that you'll set up a situation, that it's more like a date night, but there's a third wheel there with a camera and they're just having fun and you are there taking photos. Like that is the kind of copy that you would speak to them. So really finding that ideal client, that target client of yours, and figuring out how to speak to them, how they would want to be spoken to, and what would draw them into your photos, to your website, Instagram, all those kinds of things.
I love it. So basically it comes down to like words and stuff
Pretty
too,
much,
which is
yeah.
It's so funny because as a photographer, like words are hard.
Words are really hard.
Especially most of us, for some of us, they're like, heck yeah, I went for like journalism and this is awesome. But majority of us, I feel like as creative and visual people, we like the art side of it. We're visual people. So words can be really hard. And I do find so much power, and there's so much that goes into copy, and not even just having compelling copy, but having converting copy and stuff like that too. There's so much that goes into it, and speaking exactly to them, and not so much about you, but also like what they're going to get from it, and all that stuff. And I do want to ask you too, because I think it'd be so much easier, right? It is so much easier when we can speak to people that we do align with, like you keep like saying, like the joyful, warm, that's easy for me because I feel like that's just my personality and my personality type. Right. So that is my ideal client. But you were saying like you're not your ideal client, basically. How would that look different?
Yes,
I feel like that'd be harder.
It is a lot more difficult, and that is really figuring out like what their style is and how you would speak to that. So like with going back to Chewy, his is very like in your face, very abrupt, and that attracts those couples because that's the style that they're going for and that's what they want to do. So whenever you see his captions, there might be some curse words in there, and people are like, yeah, I like this guy, or he, is at least speaking to me. So you don't have to be like your target client to attract your target client. And I think a lot of the times when your target client kind of evolves and morphs into something that is not you is as you're growing and gaining experience. A lot of it is the income level that changes, where you're no longer putting out ads into like those buy, sell, trade Facebook groups and just like, hey, I'm an affordable photographer, like come over here. As you do whenever you're first starting off, you are now speaking to them in different places, and you're not on Craigslist trying to find someone who's looking for a cheap photographer. You're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, you are writing blogs, you're using SEO and all the tools that you have. You're even writing like guest blogs on other vendors to point back toward your website and like speak to them where they are hanging out and where they find value, instead of where your previous clients may have found value.
Yes. And I'm such a big believer in like, there at least comes a point when I want people and I want my students to stop marketing themselves in Facebook groups.
Yes.
Like, there comes a point, and I'm not shaming that at all, because there's a point that's totally valid and that totally works for you. But you also, exactly what you said, John, you get to a point where you don't want to do that anymore, especially as you're tapping into that next level of clientele. So there's nothing wrong with it in the beginning, but there comes a point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to challenge you to step away from this and let's try something else.
Yes.
So I really like that. What do you think what are some marketing strategies that you feel like are most effective when someone is in that season of pivoting, when they are maybe just transitioning in between clients, like ideal clients?
Yeah, I think that really focusing on your website, for one, is huge. I know that we don't really like to update our websites. We love the instant gratification of social media, of putting something out there and getting all the views and the likes and the comments and the shares. And you're just like, yes, I feel validated. I am going to go take a nap now. But your website, but your website is like, I have to log into this thing. I have to figure out all of these moving parts. If you're not very big into like web design and all that, if that's not in your blood, then it's a little bit more difficult to update that. But that is very important, because social media is more of like a handshake and more of an invitation to your website, which is your home, where you can invite them in. They can get comfortable with you. They get to know you a little bit more, and they really see more of your portfolio. So really focusing on your website, keeping your images up to date, keeping them aligned with your marketing strategy for your target client, because there's so many times, I am guilty of this as well, where I go like 6 months. I'm like, I should really update my portfolio because like my editing style has changed a little bit, or I've really figured out my ideal client is more of, the candid like laughter and less of the posed stuff. And my hero image on the website is this beautiful photo, but it's very posed and, set up with off-camera flash and all that. I'm like, it doesn't align with my voice now. So updating your website, keeping all of that on social media where you're speaking to them. And I think you mentioned this earlier, where you're really speaking to them, about their experience instead of about you. And like, here, look at me. This is what I can do. Wouldn't it be so fun to work together? It's like, this is what I know that you want this, and this is what I'm going to speak to. This is how I help you do that. And that will really connect with them on a much deeper level than just, here's my photos, here's my prices, come give me money.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I couldn't agree more, because that comes across really transactional too.
Yeah.
And if that's the type of like approach that you have and business you have, nothing wrong with that at all. But I do see a disconnect with people wanting to connect and wanting to do that. But then that's what they have on their website, and that's their workflow and stuff with that. And then they're wondering why it's not clicking or why that's not really translating well. And, that's could be a really easy fix of why. And so I just couldn't agree more with all of that and making it about that. So I think that's really, really powerful. And I love that little switch. But what's just one piece of advice that you would want to leave our listeners with, whether we talked about it, whether we didn't talk about it, how to market to your ideal client when maybe you're not and you're in a season of pivoting or whatever that looks like?
Yeah. I would say I'm a huge community builder. I love community. I love building people up and making connections. And I think that is monumental in this industry, not only with fellow photographers, where you can send them referrals, they can send you referrals. If you make friends with people whose target client is different than yours, then whenever they come in, you can send them their way. And whenever they have clients that align with yours, they can send them your way, and really build those friendships and connections with photographers, with vendors, with different groups and things on, there's Facebook groups for couples who are engaged, and really building connections there, and with other vendors, especially that are not in not a pointed relationship where it's like, we're going to be friends because I know you're going to send me people, right? You're going to send me some work.
Right.
But we're going to be friends because we're in the industry together. I want to see you succeed. And when you succeed, we all succeed. We're all elevating the industry as a whole whenever we're encouraging each other. So yeah, community. 100%.
I love that. And I think that's such an undervalued marketing strategy that people don't use, and they don't, utilize that enough. And oh my goodness, the power in that too. And just, like you said, creating community and friendships around that. And I think there's plenty of work for all of us to go around and more.
100%. Oh yeah.
So it's not like one of those things where it shouldn't be just natural and something fun that you do with a friend and do something like that. So I love that. I think that's amazing. John, this has been so awesome. I just love hearing your insights on it and how you can just leverage different marketing platforms and strategies to utilize that, your ideal client. And as you're pivoting and all that, I think it's been amazing. So why don't you tell us where we can all find you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. I'm there all the time, all day, every day. All Heart Photo on both of those. For more educational stuff like free guides and templates and all that, podcast.allheartphoto.com has all that kind of stuff for photographers. And then I also host a podcast, Wisdom in the Tangents, for photographers and creative entrepreneurs.
Amazing. Well, make sure to list all that. And yes, and then also make sure to go listen to his podcast. You're interviewing me soon too here. So we'll have a nice little podcast swap.
I am. I'm excited about that.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, John. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been an honor. Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I did talking to him. Like I said, he's such a joy and fun person to talk to. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you liked it, make sure you screenshot it and share it to your stories and tag me at Rachel Traxler so that I can see which episodes you are loving the most. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you. Keep shining, and we'll see you next time.
You may or may not know this about me, but every year I put together an annual blog of the best photography conferences in the US. And every single year, this conference that I'm about to tell you about has been on that list, the Hybrid Collective. This is where digital and film photography meet Not only are the speakers and educators extremely knowledgeable and down to earth, but these styled shoots and masterclasses will take your portfolio to the next level. I'm like, seriously, these are gorgeous settings. It's amazing. And you've even heard from some of the past and current educators at Hybrid on this very podcast. People like John Dolan, KT Mary, Jennifer Lawrence, Fair Horisti, John Canlis, Burnell Westbrook, Layli Amati, just to name a few. And this year, Hybrid is going to sunny San Diego, California, from February 23rd through the 27th, 2025. One of my favorite parts about this conference is the community. I have made so many lasting relationships over the years. It is great. I know you're going to love it. I will be there too, so we'll get to say hi in person. So head on over to thehybridco.com and use promo code JOHN in checkout to save $350 off your ticket. That is thehybridco, thehybridco.com, and use promo code JOHN, JOHN, at checkout and save $350 off your ticket. And I'll see you in San Diego. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Wisdom and the Tangents podcast. As always, you can check out all the things in the show notes. Like I said, I have the link for her podcast, the Gold Biz Podcast, in the show notes and show description, so you can go follow her. This is a great little taste of what exactly her show is and how her interview style is, and like the length of the episode too. So if you're like one of those who listen to this show and you're like, you know what, I could go with like 20 to 30 minutes, that would be great. Then hers are perfect for you. But yeah, go subscribe, go support my friend Rachel, and thank you, Rachel, for letting me use this audio for this podcast. I hope y'all have a great holiday week. I'll see you again in the new year. Going to be breaking down your top 5 episodes of 2024. So even if you did listen to all those, you're going to want to listen again, because these are just like the best nuggets from all of those shows. So yeah, I'll see you then. Happy New Year, happy holidays, Merry Christmas and Hanukkah and all of the things happening this week. I will see you in 2025. Bye, y'all.